Howdy, folks. Welcome to the channel, Rockin' the Country. I'm Don. We're getting an education into Dwight Yoakam through various means. Renee Mooberry made a gift to the channel for me to do this reaction and many other of Dwight's. So, Renee, thank you for this gift and request. And I had done a reaction about a month ago or so to Dwight with Whoopi Goldberg, and this was like a couple decades ago. And I got some insight into Dwight as a person, as a man, as an artist, as a philosopher, and all that. And so I became a bigger fan of Dwight's when I saw that interview. And now we're going to hear from Dwight's bass player on what it was like working with or for Dwight as his bass player. And the way I understand it, this is on Otis Gibbs' channel, and he's talking with David Rowe, Dwight's bass player. Pretty sure that's how this one's playing out. I haven't seen the interview, so I'm going to be watching it with you guys. And Renee also said that it's worth reading the comments in the video. So I'll put the link to the video down below, and you guys can go over and check out Otis's, I guess, interview with David Rowe, or however, whatever their relationship is to one another. I don't know who Otis Gibbs is, but maybe he's, like a country music aficionado, some kind of media personality or person interviewing David Rowe. But we're about to find out. So, Renee, thank you again for this gift and request and the upcoming education.
Hey, friends, I'm Otis Gibbs, and this is Dave Rowe. He's going to tell you what it was like to play bass for Dwight Yoakam.
Okay. I got the Dwight Yoakam gig. Do you know who Keith Gaddis is? Dwight wanted to go to a small band, not all the guitars and all steels and all that crap. And he wanted to put together, and I think Cash influenced this. He wanted to go back to a sort of a rockabilly three-piece plus him, so four including him. And Keith Gaddis was a guy that I had done a lot of work for here. He moved to Los Angeles. Let me give a little plug to Keith. He's got a record called Big City Blues. It's one of the best records ever made. It's unbelievable. But Dwight fell in love with Keith. They found a good drummer. I said, we got to get it. I want an upright bass, man. He said, I want slap bass on everything, So he said, you need to get Dave Rowe. So I didn't have to audition. I just showed up in LA, and there I was. And I was surprised, actually, because his music was all electric bass, all of it. And he just said, I said, well, what should I do? He said, boom, chickie, man, give me the Johnny Cash shit, and we'll just rework the songs that way. And it was explosive.
Wow.
Was this right around Sling Blade?
2000 to 2005. Sling Blade had already happened. And a lot of actors, like backstage, most bands have musicians come, and he had a combination of actors, and we got to I got to meet Vince Vaughn and Jeff Bridges, and of course, Billy Bob Thornton was around a lot. All those guys were around. The big thrill for me was we played San Antonio, and Tommy Lee Jones came, and I'm a big Tommy Lee Jones fan. And he came right up in my face and said, "You're a good hand, brother. You're a good hand." And I just wanted to die. It was great. He was an impressive human being, man.
I'm going to forget the name of the character, but the scene in Sling Blade of Dwight with his band is like the most accurate local band thing. Everybody's been through that.
And in a lot of ways, it was when Dwight would get pissed off, which he would do sometimes. That's who it was. And everybody will tell you that. I think I remember asking Billy Bob, and he just said, "Man, I saw him chewing out his band one time." I said, "That's my guy right there," because Dwight is a great actor. I mean, of all the guys that dabbled in both, I'd say he's probably the best. There's no doubt about it. Just going to the point of what I just said, he was a little tough to work with sometimes, but I'm going to tell you something. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met, and I mean,
I saw that.
I guarantee you, he's a Mensa. He's just over the charts.
I saw that. I told you in the prefatory comments here that he's a philosopher, and I said I learned a lot about him in that interview with Whoopi. And I'd comment in that reaction about how what a philosopher he really is, and that speaks to my heart because that's me too. But as far as being And that doesn't mean you're right on things, but it means you're contemplative. You look at things from many perspectives, angles. You don't necessarily think you have the quote unquote right answer. You might have a viable solution in the moment to a problem, but whatever it may be, but there may be a better perspective that comes from anybody. And philosophers will take the idea at face value. It doesn't matter who it comes from. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea. Could be from your enemy. But if it's a good idea, it's worth putting into your own arsenal or your own inventory of ideas and making use of it when you can. And I saw a lot of that in Dwight, where he is a thinker, but he also seems to be compassionate, human. He gets pissed off at his band and chews them out, as we found out here, much to Billy Bob Thornton's delight.
Well informed, well educated, and the most generous guy I ever worked for. I mean, his presence at Christmas time, and when we flew into somewhere, he stayed at the Four Seasons and we stayed with him, or the Ritz-Carlton. He never penny-antied us about anything. It's the most money I ever made touring. He was generous there. He was just, I got nothing bad to say about him. I loved him, you know. And singing with him, awesome, which is my other thing that I do. I did all the background vocals with Cash, mostly with Vern, which I learned a lot from about singing country harmony. And I was the main singer with Dwight, so Dwight was probably the best singer I ever sang with. Flawless. Never made a mistake. Ever. Not once.
His shit always sounds great.
It's just perfection.
Was he particular about the backing vocals?
Yes. We would work him out a little bit. Because of my experience, that style of harmony, my experience with Gosden got me through all of that. And he had seen video of me singing with Gosden. He said, that's what I want you to do the same thing here. And that's what I did. The singing part was easy. Remembering all the words was hard. It was loud for some of the same reasons with Cash. Speaking of PV, Dwight loved to play his acoustic guitar through this monstrous 1,000-watt PV thing that sat amongst one on each side of the drums, if I remember correctly. It was so fucking loud that they couldn't put it in the front of house. And I think to this day that's an issue that they deal with. But then Gaddis played through 2 big Fender amps, and I played through an amp again, and it was loud. It was punchy, you know, but very clean. And the way you know how his music's so arranged, and it was just really neat. It was not as chaotic as the Cash stuff, because the Cash stuff there were never any count offs. It was just let's go, bang, and you fall in. We called it falling in, but Dwight was much more precise and precision. A little bit taking that model from the Cash model, but, you know, still keeping Dwight's OCD, if you will, about everything. Yeah. And I love Dwight. I think he's one of the most talented people ever. I still think he was the last great country artist, you know.
Wow.
It was hilarious. I mean, it was just a bunch of hillbillies riding around on a jet plane. It was great. And Dwight loved it, and he took pride in knowing everything about the jets he was on. He was sort of an amateur jet fan. He could tell you everything about a Learjet, and it was interesting talking to him about it.
Did Buck Owens ever come around?
No, but we came to him. We played at the Palace in Bakersfield a couple times, and Buck was there both times. It was pretty cool to meet him. He's another one of my big heroes. But he did not play both those nights that we were there. He had already pretty much hung up his guitar by that point. He was not well, I don't think, where he was at the beginning stages of his decline, I think. But he was great getting to talk to him and hang out. He was cool, man. He was really funny. It was Keith Gaddis on guitar, and then he left because he got a record deal with RCA, and Eddie Perez from the Mavericks came in, and he was the second guitar player I worked with. But they were both so great, it didn't matter. I mean, you know. So I was there like 5 years, and when I left, Eddie was the guitar player.
Wow. Yeah, you were right, Renee. I mean, that interview went quick. The editing was good too. I mean, that Otis or his people did on that. But nonetheless, I mean, that went quick. You could have stood for another 6 or 16 minutes of commentary and what it was like. I mean, straight shooter, and didn't mince words, but good with words. And I like that he'd worked with Johnny. He worked with Vern. Learned a lot, and there's a lot that you realize, because I'm not a musician, but I pay attention to how words are formulated and stuff. And when he said that he learned a lot from Vern about what it is to be a country backing vocalist, that right there tells you there's more than what my ideas were, where it's like you need to have a nice voice, uh, and that'll be pre-screened, if you will. So, Vern will know whether or not your cadence works, your tone works with him. But is it about coming in and going out? Is it about it's going to be about playing off the lead. So how you work well as a team, but what more is there vocally? Because every specialty and subspecialty has its identifying features, and those are crafted over time. They generally just don't happen. I suppose we could find some examples somewhere where things just sort of like happened and then took off because people liked it. But in other worlds, when people are perfectionistic like Dwight or like Vern, the voice, that it's purposeful and you work at it. And the fact that Dwight had seen his work with Vern, and that's what Dwight said, you know what? I want you, because Dwight understood what it would be to be a backing vocalist. It isn't just to have this pretty voice where you grab somebody in a cattle call and say, come on in. My first exposure to that was with the Allman Brothers, where a friend of mine was friends with Mark Quinones, who was the third drummer of the Allman Brothers. You had Butch Trucks, you had J-Mo, but then at some point they brought in, it was like bongos really a lot that Mark Quinones was playing. And I got to meet Mark backstage at the Beacon. And I'm up here in Jersey. My friend was in New York at the time, so he got me backstage. And my friend Marcus got me backstage. And I got to meet Butch and J-Mo. I got to thank Greg Allman for all these years of great music. I spoke with Derek Trucks before the show. That wasn't arranged. He just happened to be on stage by himself. And I didn't even know who Derek was at the time. And I went out there, was just chatting him up a little bit. And he was really cool. But he's just sort of like working on his guitar a little bit, sitting there chill. Nobody was in the audience yet and all this stuff. But what I learned was the band, the Allman Brothers, and some of the guys in the band had seen Mark play with, it was like a jazz band or some type of band like Aldo Nova or Spyro Gyra, one of those. And when they heard him play, they were like, we got to get this guy. And it's like me being a non-musician would not recognize when somebody is phenomenal or not, or when somebody would fit with the band up to their standards. And the Allman Brothers were very percussive. I would love to hear an interview with maybe, it could even be Derek Trucks on what it's like to play with the Allman Brothers or Warren Haynes or even J-Mo. I mean, J-Mo's still alive. Butch isn't, Greg isn't, Dwayne isn't, as we know. But love to hear what it was like playing with them. But, to my ear, they were fairly precise. And to have two drummers going at it at the same time and then bring in a third drummer and it still works. That was my first exposure to, there's a lot more going on with musicians and putting a band together than the lay person knows or sees or could comprehend until you get into it. It's like woodworking. Working with a lathe looks easy when you see somebody on YouTube or on television doing it. Then you get a lathe and you're like, Jesus, God, I can't even start this thing, let alone make a thing out of it or whatever. Or a plunge router. I had a Porter cable plunge router that I couldn't figure out how to use it. But there are people, woodworkers, who whoop, 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 zzz, getting perfect edges. And that's how I see these interviews, Renee, that you get little tidbits of information that there is so much more going on behind the scenes. And I hear David speak of some of the specifics. It's you're getting a Harvard education in 6 minutes, but really you want to get your doctorate. So you want at least 10 more minutes to get that thing so you understand more. And he obviously holds Dwight in high regard, as I do, but he knows better from being on the inside. And he played with Vern. He played with Johnny. I mean, everybody, he met Buck Owens. That places him ahead of me all by itself. So I'm not going to rate this thing, but that was wonderful. And I really appreciate you bringing that to me and to the folks on the channel, because once a video is posted, unless YouTube finds a reason sometime later to take them down, they stay up for years and more people watch them over time. And I love that part of posting a video, doing a reaction. So this is one of those things that more people will get educated. I mean, right now it's July 10th, 2025, but in a couple of years, assuming YouTube and the internet and everything still exists, this will still be up and people will still be getting educated on Dwight Yoakam. And Dwight's just a cool ass dude. And I love people who are so curious that they keep learning, like he said about the Lear jets and other things that Dwight just has this insatiable curiosity about. But I don't think curiosity is a good thing unless you're a generous person. I can make that connection. I'm sure I could probably talk for an hour on that, but that's what I was thinking when he said Dwight is a very generous person. I was really glad to hear that, not merely because he's doing good things for other people and the Four Seasons and Ritz's and he didn't penny pinch the band, treated them well. When you yourself are curious and you want to keep learning, you're not so focused necessarily on nitpicking other human beings. You like ideas. And that takes you out of the realm merely of micromanaging people, but into a different way of living, thinking, and even walking in and out of a hotel, on or off a stage, in and out of the living room, or just being by yourself. You have much more of an expansive lifestyle and much more than an expansive mind. And generosity is what will fuel that. So I'll have to work that out more so. But anyway, Renee, thank you again. I'm going to leave it be at that. You guys can leave your comments. That was awesome. David, should you see it? Well done, my friend. Thank you for revealing what you revealed, but the way in which you revealed it. No bullshit, no nonsense, just really straightforward. Here's how it was. It's kind of like when, I'll leave this. The saying, when a doctor needs an opinion, he asks a nurse. Like something you wouldn't think. You'd think it would be in reverse. Well, if you want the truth about a band, ask the backing vocalist or ask the bass player. They'll give you some skinny on stuff, because especially years after. But I'm glad he appreciates Dwight. All right, guys. Have a great day. See you on another video. Keep rocking the country.